So there's a lot of overrated suit. I always go over many movies in the movie, many superhero movies that are very overrated. Black Panther, one of them. Endgame is pretty overrated. The Dark Knight is overrated as well. Spider-Man 2. One movie, and not all the overrated movies are bad movies. Dark Knight's still pretty great. Don't understand why people still think it's the best superhero movie. Mostly Batman fanboys. Endgame, very overrated. People think it's the best Marvel movie in the history, even though there's better Marvel movies. The only one I don't really care for is Black Panther, and the last movie, of course, is Spider-Man 2. Considering there's much better Spider-Man movies that have come out since, obviously the only reason that movie is so popular is because of nostalgia. So yeah, what is the most overrated superhero of all time? What could possibly beat out Spider-Man 2 in Endgame, The Dark Knight, and of course, the second most overrated superhero movie of all time, Black Panther? Well, actually, there's two of them. There's two movies that people always say is one of the greatest movies of all time. And yeah, I already went over it in the top ten overrated movies list, which didn't get many views, only 13. So of course, I'll have to explain this one in its own separate video. So very recently, as many YouTubers always say, this movie is so amazing. It's perfect. Even a YouTuber very recently, like an hour ago, say it's a named Dad's Review, saying it's a perfect film. I just don't see it. And the movie we'll be talking about is The Incredibles, the first one. Second one, there's a lot of people who don't like the second Incredibles. Of course, if you hear a quote-unquote perfect film, you're apparently a wrong person, because, yeah. But again, I know people on the internet who also do not like Jurassic Park, and yeah, and I like Jurassic Park, and there's also people who hate the first Avengers, and hate every Marvel movie that ever exists, and hate The Dark Knight, and I don't hate The Dark Knight. To people who say I hate The Dark Knight, I never said I hated it, okay? And I don't hate any of the Dark Knight movies. I don't hate any of them. I actually love all three of them. But The Incredibles, this is just a movie that I watched a few times, and yeah, I think I watched this movie 3 to 4 times. I just couldn't get it. Couldn't understand what made this movie so great. This movie is very similar to another movie that I don't like, but that movie is way worse. It's called Fantastic Four. There's two, and yeah, the Fantastic Four movies are not even that great. This movie is like the kids' version of Fantastic Four for me. Fantastic Four isn't even that great of a movie. Fantastic Four, the 2015 version, was terrible, and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is probably one of the most forgettable movies I have ever watched. And yes, this movie is probably the most overrated movie on the internet. With a close runner up being the Fast and the Furious, that entire goddamn franchise. So yes, The Incredibles is the most overrated movie of all time. Let's go to the first reason why I don't like it. Number one, the characters, I just don't really connect with these characters as much as Batman and the Dark Knight, and and the Avengers movies, the main Avengers, those characters are much better characters, but I just don't really. Oh, superheroes are banned now, and they have to live their lives as normal people now with superhero. It's not likely. I know Civil War came 12 years after this movie, but to me, this movie, when I watched the movie, I was like, wait, this is just like Civil War. They can't do those superpowers anymore. And yeah, and then I think, it was kind of a loser at the time. Say, hey, let's make a superhero movie, even though they were making at the time. There was only Spider-Man 2 at the time, and the Blade movies, and the old Superman and Batman movies. But let's make a superhero movie where superheroes couldn't do the superpowers. But then that's one of the reasons I don't like this movie. While Captain America Civil War, it made sense. They gave reasons why. The Avengers leave collateral damage, and the government takes control of all the superheroes. They still could be superheroes, but they're mandated by the government. But this movie said, okay, no more superheroes. Then what's the point of having superheroes if you ban superheroes? And yeah, this movie is also pretty similar to The Boys, where the people were born with superpowers, but The Boys, there was a more adult version of this. And yeah, to the people who are saying I hate this movie, oh, it's just because it's animated you hate. Well, there was an anime movie that came out 2 years ago called Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, and that was way better than this movie. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse actually had good characters, especially the pig character. I'll go over some of the good parts of the movie. Like Black Panther, this movie actually has a pretty good villain. But yeah, the final fight scene, saving family, fighting together against bad guy. Oh, and another game that, reminds me of this is Overwatch. So, but that one makes more sense because they did bad things. They don't really ever. They said, superheroes are banned because they destroyed a part of a building. Even though in the Avengers movies, the entire city of New York was destroyed. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Number two is the animation is alright. It's not amazing. Like, especially if you look at the background, if you look at the background instead of, of course, the upfront images for 2004, yeah, the animation is good. But if you look at the final stage fighting, it reminds me of exactly like Black Panther. The only good animation is the characters and essentially there's no people in the background and stuff. It's like it's kind of like a average typical video game background like in Halo. Well, it's out of the map and he can't even go there. And yeah, the animation in the city is not really fleshed out. I know this is a 2004 animated movie. I'm just nitpicking at this point, but come on, you could have animated that. And then the final fight scenes, instead of them versus fighting against Syndrome, it's them fighting against a giant robot, then fight against Syndrome. And then the final scene's like, oh, we finally beat Syndrome, yay! Oh, he comes back. Oh no, you have to fight him again, and they just throw him up in the air. Oh yeah, they get rid of him finally in the end part of the movie. Yep, that's the entire story. The story is also pretty forgettable. I can't really remember most of the things that happen in this movie, except of superpowers being taken away, them saying, "Oh look, we have to stop Syndrome because he's a bad guy." I think the reason why people like this movie because Syndrome used to be a fanboy of the main character, Mr. Incredible, but yeah. And basically they have to go and through secret missions and stop whoever's doing these bad things, which is Syndrome. And yeah, they have to stop him because he's doing bad things. And this movie is praised to be a masterpiece. Why? I just don't get this movie. I never probably will. The second movie also is not that good, but a lot of people don't like the second movie, and really just shows how Pixar has gone down the hill. The biggest movie I saw Pixar going down the hill was The Good Dinosaur. That was the first sign. People will even go back to Brave and Cows 2 as the first examples of Pixar going downhill. But yeah, The Incredibles is the most overrated movie ever made. And yeah, this movie had a sequel that made more money than a lot of MCU movies. The sequel to The Incredibles made more money than Civil War, made more money than The Dark Knight. Yes, the sequel to The Incredibles made more money than The Dark Knight, even though The Dark Knight is a vastly superior film than The Incredibles. And people always say this is a perfect film. How can you hate perfection? Well, I don't think The Incredibles is perfection. The characters are not that great. Oh, the action scenes are not that great, which is what makes a superhero movie. You know what other movies that have bad action scenes? X-Men Origins Wolverine. That movie has atrociously bad action scenes. Fantastic Four. Batman vs. Superman. Okay, I'm gonna stop comparing Incredibles to Batman vs. Superman. Batman vs. Superman is worse in every single possible way. That movie is even more dull and forgettable. Same thing of Fantastic Four. But this and X-Men Origins Wolverine has even worse action scenes than all those movies combined, especially when he ruined Deadpool in that movie. But yeah, this movie is probably Pixar's most overrated movie of all time. Maybe I have to go over why Fast and the Furious is overrated next, but that's a pretty easy one because a lot of people think that Fast and the Furious is overrated. It's just, and yeah. And I won't be surprised in 2025 we get The Incredibles 3, and it makes $2 billion because of how overrated this franchise is. And yeah. The Incredibles is probably the most overrated movie franchise. And let's not forget, someone blocked me for saying I don't like The Incredibles. Because they refuse to hear my opinion. Said, oh, you don't like a certain movie that I like? You are blocked. And I can't wait till all the hate comments I get after not liking this movie. because I watched it several times. Some of the jokes are funny in this movie, but most of the movie isn't really funny. The characters are not that great. They're like poor man's versions of the Fantastic Four. I'm sorry, but I actually think that this movie is like a poor man's version of the Fantastic Four. Like, hey, look at the Fantastic Four. Instead, make the Fantastic Four a family. Because Fantastic Four is so, remember that movie Fantastic Four was so amazing, that movie that was so groundbreaking, even though it's also not that great. Fantastic Four, the old 2005 one, yep, that movie wasn't that great either. But yeah, The Incredibles, I actually saw this movie, not that great. Even even some of quote unquote Pixar's worst movies, such as Up, Brave, and no, not Up, Brave. I've confused Brave Up for some other movie. Brave, The Good Dinosaur, and Cars 2 are even better than this movie. Even Cars 3, one of the most disappointing movies I've ever watched, is way better. It's still better than this movie. This movie is still better than its sequel, though. And it's at least still better than The Good Dinosaur to a certain extent. I can go over why I hate that movie, but The Good Dinosaur was not that great either. And yeah, The Incredibles is overrated. And yes, I am ready to prepare for all the hate comments in the YouTube comment section below. Goodbye.